Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you the much requested how to make techno like Zimmz. It might be Zimmz, it might be Zimmz, so I'm pronouncing that wrong, apologize, but in any case, as always, you can get the project file and samples, MIDI and presets, and everything that you just heard in the beginning of this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already available, and yeah, let's get started. So, we're at 127 BPM, the first sound we have here is the lead, which sounds like this. So here are the notes for this one. You can see it's just playing this pattern where it's sort of shaped around the F sharp minor scale, or it is shaped around the F sharp minor scale. We're in F sharp minor, that's the key. And yeah, you can see we just have like F sharp, A, the minor third, C sharp, the fifth, D, which is just one note up from C sharp and it's in the scale. And then up here we just have G sharp, the ninth, A, the minor third. Like it's all just stuff that you can easily see is a part of this scale. And yeah, it's not that complicated. And then over here, it's just also going up to C sharp. Again, just the fifth, an octave up. So yeah, just sticking around kind of like a minor scale and then getting creative with the way you spread it out across the octaves. Like how this is up here when we have an A down here already. Like just stuff like that. For the sound on this one, it's made using wavetable. What we've got here is sort of like a super saw with a little bit more to it. What I noticed when I listen to a lot of Zimmz's music is he'll use these kind of, standard trancing means like you hear in a lot of techno these days, but there's always something a little bit more to it. So that was the idea with this one. What we got here is just a saw wave. It's going into a low pass filter. You can see the low pass is automating. So this is how it's kind of staying interesting. Even just by having it like slightly moving. Like these aren't that different of movements. But just by having it slightly move like that, it just keeps it interesting and makes it so it never sounds exactly the same twice. I've also got an envelope on the filter. You can see we got the amp envelope routed to that. Yeah, that's also on the amplitude. And then the last thing here is this LFO. So this is on the pitch. If I set this to 0, you can hear. There's without it. And then with it. So this is part of what I was talking about when I was saying making it something a little bit more interesting and not just like a standard super saw. Having that on the pitch gives it a very interesting texture. Then after that we just have a bit of unison. You can see we got that on the random note setting. And that is it for inside the synth. Then we just have a bit of chorus, just kind of spreading it out, making it a bit bigger. And then we have this echo as well as this reverb. These are both just giving it a bit of space. Yeah, just kind of like adding a bit more of a spacey quality to the sound, giving it a bit more space in between the notes as well. Then we have the saturator and the drum bus. These are just teaming up to fatten the sound up and kind of tie it together. It helps also to bring out the reverb and the delay and make those like kind of sit equally with the regular notes, if that makes any sense. And then the last thing we have on there is just an EQ8 cutting out the low end as well as cutting out a little bit of mud there. And then we have this compressor side chaining into the kick. And that is it for the lead. The next sound we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So this one's pretty simple. It's just like this big punchy kick. The key with this one is just making it hit as hard as a rumble kick would. Like when you listen to techno and when you listen to these tracks, you'll notice like regular techno where they just have a rumble kick and that's just like this really big fat thing in the mix. It's not always as easy just to get a kick with a bass sounding as fat as the rumble kick. So that's kind of the idea here. So with this one, yeah, it's just a kick in a simpler. You can see I've got it detuned a little bit to get it in the key of the track perfectly. I've also got this pitch envelope on here, so that's just making it hit a little bit harder, have a little bit more impact. Then after that we have the saturator. I'll show you without this and then with it. There's without it. And then with it, so you can hear this makes the kick hit a lot harder. I've got the wave shaper on there, and yeah, it's just really bringing out that punch, really making the kick as hard as it can possibly be. After that we have a bit of drum bus. This is just kind of tying it all together once more. You can hear this helps to focus the punch of the kick. And yeah, after that we have just these three EQs. These may seem like a lot, but I'll explain what they're doing. Basically, we're just cutting out a bit of low mid-range. You can see there's quite a bit of that. If I turn these off, there's a lot more mud in the kick. So that's the first thing. It's just about cleaning that up. Then we've got these mid-range boosts. Those are just for the punch. Those kind of help with like that like the punchy mid-range, and then I've also got a high-end boost to help with that same sort of thing. And then you can see with this last one, we have a low-end cut. So that's what this is doing. It's just kind of cutting out some of that low-end. I do have a low-end boost on this first one that's more for the punch. And then here, we're just kind of cutting it to make room for the bass. And yeah, so that is it for the kick. The next thing we have here is the bass, which is 2 layers. Sounds like this. So here are the notes. You can see it's just playing this kind of thing that's in F sharp. We got like F sharp, D, just all notes from the F sharp minor scale, just like I was saying with the lead. You can see also with this one, it's like these slide up notes. You can hear those are like happening on the upbeats there. It's like like that. Yeah, it's just kind of like making it fit into the rhythm of the track a little bit more and making this have like a nice syncopation with everything else. So here's the first layer of bass. This is made using wavetable. You can see it's just 2 saw waves. And then I've just got those detuned a little bit with the unison. I've also got this on the monophonic mode so that we can have those slide up notes. And yeah, after that we have a bit of erosion. This is just kind of bringing out the high end a bit more in the bass. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear it really brings out that crunchy high end, and that really helps to make something like this fit through in the mix. Or cut through the mix, I mean to say. After that we have the saturator. Here's without it. And then with it, just kind of fattening the sound up a little bit more, giving it a bit more power. Then we have this EQ8, which is cutting out the low end, and as well as cutting out some mud here. So this is what's making this a mid-range bass. Pretty simple stuff. This is, not really meant to fill out the low end. That's why we have a sub. So I'm just cutting it out, and then I'm cutting out some mud. I also have this EQ over here doing that. Again, just cutting out some low mid-range. Whenever you use saturation, this is going to happen. We're going to have kind of some muddy low mid-range added. So this is just cutting it out. And then the last thing on there is just this utility, which I have set to this bass mono setting. So this is just kind of making that low end mono. You can hear without it. There's some weird phasing stuff. And yeah, that is it for the mid bass. After that, we have the sub, which sounds like this. This one is just 2 saw waves. You can see detuned a little bit inside of analog here. And then they're going into a low pass filter. So here's without that. And then with it. So the idea here is we have this very big, fat, harmonically rich sound. And then we're just dialing it back using the low pass. And making it just a sub bass. After that, I've got the amp envelope set like this. And then we just have a bit of unison as well as a bit of glide inside of the synth. The unison is just kind of making it a bit fatter. Here's without it. And then with it. And then the glide there is just for the notes where it slides up. After that, we have a bit of saturator, just kind of fattening the sound up. Then I have this EQ8. This is cutting at 100 Hz. This helps to make room for the kick, because that's where the kick hits, as well as a little bit of mud at 211 Hz is being cut out. And then I just have a low end boost on that. And then the last thing we have on here is this utility, which is just making it mono. Just making sure, I'm pretty sure the unison inside of analog is mono. But, it's like with the sub bass, you just don't want it to be stereo at all. So, yeah, just making sure. And then we have those basses in a group. This is what that sounds like. I'll show you here is with nothing on the group. And then with everything. So this is just gluing the basses together and fattening them up and making it really feel like one bass, as you can hear. The first thing we got here is this drum bus. Here's without it. And then with it, you can hear this is really the main thing for gluing them together. It just takes these, and it's like without this, you can really hear the space between them, and it really sounds like 2 different sounds. But with this, you can really hear it pushing them together and just making everything feel kind of glued together as one sound. After that, we have this EQ8. This is just cutting at 100 Hz or at 129 Hz, but kind of like the 100 Hz to about 250 Hz range. This is just cutting out a bit of space for the kick, as well as cutting out some mud in the bass. And then the last thing we have on there is a compressor, side chaining it to the kick. And that is it for the basses. So I have the kick and the bass in a group together. It's just kind of like gluing those together a bit more, making the low end feel more together and tighter. So here's with nothing on the group. And then with everything, so you can hear there's a big difference there. So the first thing here is the EQ. You can see we got one before the drum bus and one after. With both of these, we're cutting out some low mid-range. So it's like I keep saying, whenever you use saturation and stuff like that to fatten your sounds up, it's going to add some mud, so we're just cutting that out. But then on the second one, we've also got a low-end boost and a high-end boost. So we're bringing out the high-end in that main bass as well as in the kick, and then we're making the low-end a lot stronger and more powerful with the kick and the sub-bass. I've also got a drum bus on here. It's kind of like what I was saying with the bass group. You know, it just pushes everything together, makes it feel more even. This is part of what I was saying before as well. It's like, with this style, you need the basses to sound as fat as a rumble would. And this is kind of how you do that, because when you have a rumble kick, it's all like one layer. And, you know, it's like just the rumble and the kick. It's all one thing. So this is helping to do that. It's helping to kind of make the kick and the basses sound like one thing. And yeah, that is it for the low end bus. The next thing that we have here is this drone, which sounds like this. So this one's actually very simple. It's just playing F sharp and C sharp, so just the root note of the key we're in, and then the fifth. Pretty simple stuff there, very straightforward musical intervals. And then for the sound on this one, it's basically just this FM pad that I made. And then I have it going through this auto pan here. So the idea here is it's this kind of like constantly moving and changing FM sound, which you can see is just 4 sine waves. Got them detuned a little bit, and they're all at different octaves. And then I've got a little bit of LFO just moving the volume there. So we have that sound, and then we're taking the auto pan and making it a bit more rhythmic, because if I turn off the auto pan, you can hear this adds a lot to the track. But it doesn't really fit in so well. But when you add this thing, which is just going like, making it kind of more rhythmic, it just fits into the mix so much better. So yeah, and then I've also got a bit of reverb on that. I've got a drum bus to make it a bit fatter and kind of more present in the mix. We've got this EQ8 cutting out the low end as well as boosting the high end. And then I have a compressor side chaining that to the kick. And yeah, that is it for the drum. Like I said, it's a very simple sound, but it adds a lot to the mix, because without this, in between the lead, you can hear it's just all the rhythm section. It's just the basses and the drums. But with this, it gives us something melodic playing throughout the whole track. After that, we have the percussion, which sounds like this. So I just have these two sort of like dark percussion sounds, very techno sounding, in a group together, and these are really the percussion in the track. Like, with this track, you know, there's already a lot going on with the synth. You don't want to go too crazy, but I just have this little sparse, kind of subtle percussion like this playing underneath everything at times, where it still is adding a lot to the mix. Like, without this, it would be very flat in terms of drums. It would be just the kick and the hi-hats. So let's add something to kind of break it up. So the first thing here is this one. This is just like this very deep percussion. You can hear, yeah. It's just playing that one note. Pretty simple, just got a bit of drum bus on that. Then we have the second one, which sounds like this. It's like doo 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 doo. So this is a very simple sound. It's just actually the kick, the same one that you heard up above. I'll show you. Yeah, and then I've got it in its own simpler here, and what's happening is it's being bandpassed. So you can hear we're just bandpassing that, and what's happening is this is playing like that little thing in between the main kick. And so this is a technique that's done a lot in Zimmz tracks. I hear this in a lot of other techno. I've done this in my own techno tracks a ton of times. It's just adding like a very nice little, it's like a nice way to make a really subtle little percussion like this. So I've just got a bit of saturator on that, some drum bus fattening it up, and then an EQ8 cutting out the line. And then on the group of percussion, I've got some effects as well. Just got a bit of drum bus to give everything a more even texture and bring it out even more and make it even fatter. And then we just had this EQ8 cutting out the line. And that is it for the percussion. So then after that, we have the hi-hats, which all together sound like this. And so what's going on here is we have a few different things. The first thing is its shaker, which sounds like this. So this is just like the shaker sample. I'm just taking it in here. You can see I shortened it a little bit. And this is the main one that's playing on the upbeats. You can hear it's just like about how you mix it. Like it's mixed way louder than everything else in the mix. And yeah, you can hear it's just kind of playing on the upbeats. It's the loudest hi-hat. After that, we have this hi-hat, which sounds like this. So this one is just playing constantly on the 16th notes. You know, very simple, just and you can hear this one's mixed a bit quieter than the other ones. So with all of these, you can hear they're pretty similar sounds. It's just about the way that you have them mixed, where obviously this is still loud enough in the track and it's still hitting hard. It's just kind of behind that other hi-hat. And then the last hi-hat we have is this one, which sounds like this. So this, I guess you could call this more of a shaker. This is playing that same just constant 16th note pattern that the last one was playing. But you can hear with this one, it's a bit darker sounding, and then it's being panned. So it's a nice technique. You know, even though techno is meant to be in mono, you can still do some cool stuff like this, where you have it, like you have something like this, just kind of bringing this hi-hat to life by constantly panning like this. And what would happen also, the reason why techno needs to be in mono is because every club system is in mono. What would happen if you were hearing this in the club is you would still get this fat shaker underneath it, which you can hear is adding some nice fat mid-range to the sound. It just wouldn't be constantly panning. It just would be all down the center. But yeah, so with this one, it's just made using operator. I have some white noise going into a bandpass. Here's before the bandpass. And then with it, and then you can see, yeah. So the bandpass is just kind of like what shapes that sound. It allows us to kind of give this a different texture than the other one. Like I said, the other one is in the high end, and this one's in the mid-range. If you're going to be doing something like this where you have two sounds layered together playing kind of similar stuff like this, you just need to make sure that they're very different sonically. So that's why I like using operator for something like this. And then we just have the auto pan on there. You can see it's set to 8th notes, so it's really doing 16th notes. But yeah, and then I have all of those hi-hats in a group, just kind of being processed together. You know, helps to tie everything together. Here's without all the processing. And then with it, so you can really hear how important all this stuff is for making these fit together and also fit into the mix, because it just really wouldn't be loud enough or powerful enough in the mix without this stuff. So the first thing we have here is a bit of reverb. This just helps to put everything into the same space. I talked about this a lot in my other videos and in this video, I guess, but it just kind of helps when you have like a lot of percussion sounds like this or a lot of hi-hats like this, kind of coming from different places. Like these are all different samples that were all sourced and created from different things. It helps to just kind of tie those all together and make them feel like they're in the same room when you do something like this. So yeah, it's just giving everything a bit more even, like, space. Then we have this drum bus. This without that. And then with it, so you can hear this also helps to even everything out. It's making everything a bit fatter and kind of giving it an even texture. Then we have this compressor. This is very subtle. Here's without it. And then with it, you can hear this is just bringing the volumes of the hi-hats to a more even place. I'm just kind of giving everything that extra bit of oomph. The key here is just not doing too much. Like you can see, it's really not doing a whole lot. It's just compressing the peaks. And then I've got this attack up here as well. So this is how long it takes for the compression to kick in. As you know with drums, the way it works is you have what's called a transient. Basically like right at the beginning of the sound. I could probably show it to you the best with the kick. Right at the beginning of the sound, you have like this thing. And that's where the attack of the sound is. That's where the punch is coming from. And what can happen a lot of times with compression is it'll flatten your sound out. But if you take this attack and turn it up a little bit, what'll happen is it'll take a little bit longer for the compression to kick in, and you won't flatten it out because you're going to be compressing just the body of the sound. Basically, just all of this stuff over here without compressing the transient right at the start there. So yeah, that's the idea with that. Again, just kind of tying everything together without being too much and without flattening everything out. And then the last thing we have on there is just this EQ8, which is cutting out the low end as well as boosting the high end a little, kind of bringing out the sharpness. And that is it for the hi-hats, and that is also going to be it for this video. So, as always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. And thank you so much everybody for checking this video out. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said in the beginning, you get the project file and samples, MIDI and presets, and all that stuff from this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there, because it's already all available. Thank you so much guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.